educating and increasing the way they engage and connect with candidates that are running for the different offices. They could either win by many votes
that are facing fear or mourning today. We ask that you grant comfort to the grieving, healing to the wounded, and safety to all. Almighty God, we ask that you help us to use our voices responsibly and to speak for those whose voices are ignored. Allow us to stand for justice and to advocate for the dignity of every human life. One of your beautiful names is Al-Adl. Ya Allah, don't allow us to be selective in our justice. Allow us to stand with the oppressed wherever they are, locally or globally. Allow us to speak when others are silenced. Allow us to have compassion for all children, not just those children who look like us, who talk like us, who live where we live. We ask that you unite us despite our differences and make us people who uphold justice no matter who it's for or who it's against.
Demands justice, inspires us to become road fay to Civic, pursuers of justice in our lives and in our communities. Give us the strength to resist power wielded with fear and dread. Fill us with a vision and purpose to build a power yet greater, a power rooted in solidarity, liberation, and love. Grant us the courage to dismantle systems of oppression. And when they are no more, let us dedicate our wealth and resources towards the well-being of all, and free of militarization. A world where no
more about it later on, but at this time I will ask our youth team to come and
Okay, so how is UCEF impactful and useful for the youth right now? So the purpose of this organization is, in terms of youth, is to help elect the right people to the government so that the government can provide emerging adults such as us the necessary requirements to be successful and thrive in the real world. Also provide us the opportunities to develop leadership skills, specifically in personal finance and technology, and give us community service opportunities, as well as provide awareness to the campaigns that candidates are running and what their values look like. Okay, so what does UCEF mean for the youth? It is a voice for our younger generation to show that our ideas and our concerns matter in our community. Also a learning space, like I said, providing civic literacy, leadership, financial and technical opportunities and skills workshops. A platform to engage with leaders, candidates, and organizers, as well as just a safe environment to have respectful dialogues and conversations.
Activities that UCEF can do to engage the youth would include youth civic forums and discussion circles, leadership and public speaking opportunities, event planning and volunteer coordination opportunities, policy issue discussions relating to law, education, healthcare, equity and environment, media, tech, finance, and digital outreach teams.
Worked on the political arena for the last 7 years. We founded NEAMA in about 2017, 2018. And then we decided to expand the scope of the civic engagement to outside Northern Illinois. So, and add a little more elements to it. NEAMA is still our baby, so we'll be helping support it. So some people were asking, if NEAMA is here in Lake County, why are we founding this new organization? So it's not just Lake County that we'll be trying to serve, but going beyond the confines of Lake County. Next.
Some of you know me from the community. Name is Adonis, and professionally I'm a data scientist, and so a lot of expertise in this area, and we have always talked, and they have less than $10,000 in their bank accounts. This is not survival. This is not a way. That the 70% of platform is already developed, right? And we're gonna leverage all that to help.
Hello, my name is Salim Khan.
Keep the mouse.
But I've never been involved, always on the French forum, so that we can help out the candidates who actually believe in something and who want to make change. So I hope that our effort is worthwhile and we can help you guys.
Medicine. In my opinion, communication among a diverse group of people is the only way to understand each other and to work together. Too often, our politics fails not because people don't care, but because
in this auspicious moment that all of you have honored us to be a part of this journey that we are embarking. So the dream that brought me here, when I arrived in this country, I carried with me nothing but a dream. The same dream that has drawn millions to these shores for generations. I came believing on the promise of America, a land where hard work, determination, and freedom could transform any's life. But dreams don't survive on hope alone. In those early days, I was struggling to find my footing. When the challenges seemed insurmountable, something remarkable happened. A neighbor, a white American, Mr. Richard Lewis Picnic, he owed me nothing. He reached out to me, offered me a hand, and helped me get stable in this country. That single act of kindness taught me something great, profound about America. This nation isn't just about protecting my own right or your own rights. It is about looking out for each other. Thank you. It is about extending the ladder to those who are still climbing. That neighbor embodied the true spirit of America the founders envisioned when they created this great nation. What was the vision of the founders? Think about who wrote our Constitution. They were dreamers, they were visionaries, who dared to imagine a new kind of nation. They had seen tyrannies. They had experienced what happens when governments violate the rights of ordinary people. And so they created a document designed to protect the simple man, the common citizens, from the abuse of the power. The Constitution guaranteed due process. It ensured civil liberties. It promised that no person could be picked up from their privacy of their home without due process and proper documentation. Those ideas weren't just abstract ideals. They were hard-won freedoms born from the blood and the sacrifice of those who came before us. So here is the truth that we must confront tonight. That vision that is being questioned right now. Those rights that we took for granted are being tested right now. The protection that our founders established are being challenged in ways that should alarm each and every one of us. So why do we always wait? We need a wake-up call. We just had a wake-up call, I guess, So why is that? Why is that only when crisis strikes, why do we wait until our rights are violated before we stand up to protect our rights? The answer is uncomfortable, but necessary to hear. We have not been civically and socially active, and I am guilty of that, and that's why I'm standing here. Nations thrive only when their citizens know their rights, community becomes stronger only when people participate. Democracy survives only when we show up. Not on just election day. Not on just election day, but every day, in every way we can. So we can. When we step back from our civic life, we assume, other will handle things. We are too busy, we are too tired, too discouraged sometimes. Sometimes we do get discouraged. I have a friend of mine talked to me about that. He was so discouraged about things going on. He was hopeless. But that is when the foundations begin to crack. That is when the foundation begin to crack. That is when the rights our ancestors fought for begin to erode. So lifting others, strengthening all. When people are down and out, our job is to reach out. Not just to offer a helping hand, but to encourage them to play a vital and wider role. When we help someone to recognize their own rights, when we inspire them, like our kids, to inspire them to fight for justice, when we bring them into the fold of civic participation, we are not just helping one person. We are strengthening the entire community. So when those we have lifted come out, show up, they inspire others. They help others, and this is the way the community builds. It becomes stronger, it becomes better, and that is not a charity. That is the very mechanism by which democracy survives and thrives. The Constitution is just words on a piece of paper unless you and I, we, the citizen, breathe life into that through our actions.
Yes.
We, each one of us, including myself, I'm guilty of that. Each one of us are the guardians of that founding document, and it is our job to protect it. So what is the commitment that we make tonight? So here is my challenge to myself and to each one of you. When we receive an invitation to participate in a civic life, whether a community meeting, a town hall, a volunteer opportunity, or a forum like this, our first reaction, our first response should not be trying to make an excuse. If I cannot be there, if you cannot be there, I will send somebody to place my place. We just cannot leave that place for myself alone, that no, I'm not going there and it's okay. It's not okay. So make your commitment today. By being part of these gatherings, you're not only learning and keeping yourself reminded of what is at stake. You are showing others that civic duty matters. You are demonstrating that the American experiment is worth defending. The dream that we all carry. Here's the beautiful truth. Every single one of us is the offspring of an immigrant. Whether your family arrived last year, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, or 400 years ago, someone in your lineage made the journey to this land carrying a dream in their heart. So the founders who wrote the Constitution, they themselves were the immigrants or children of immigrants. They dreamed of a land where all could prosper equally. The land that gives right to all without distinction and without discrimination. A land where people from every background could live harmoniously and could live happily together. That dream still lives in all of us. And when we fulfill our civic duty, we are not just protecting our own interest. Remember that. We are not just protecting our own interest. we are fulfilling the dream that every immigrant, every founder, and every American has carried in their heart. So the leading the world, how can we lead the world? When America lives up to its ideals, when we truly believe the land of equal opportunity, of the protected rights, the citizen caring for one another, that's very important. We don't just make our own nation better, we lead the world. We show other nations that what's possible when people unite around shared values of freedom, justice, and human dignity. So tonight, I ask you to remember that neighbor who inspired me and who helped me. I'm asking you to be that neighbor, to show up, to participate, to protect the Constitution, fulfill the dream. Together, we will make this land what is always meant to be, a land of prosperity for all, harmony for all, and peace for all of us and for all the people living in this world. Thank you all. Thank you.
Manal is going to introduce them, and we are running a little bit behind.
Ample time to ask all of our lovely
Excuse me? All right. We went before. Beautiful. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a while. No, my friends are...
So we, as community members, we all thank Dr. Rami for inspiring all of us. And this is the vision that I was talking about earlier, and he just expanded on that. So thank you very much. And we are...
To welcome Annabelle Mendoza. She is a lifelong Chicagoan, born and raised in a working class Latino and immigrant family. She is running for Congress in Iowa 07 to ensure every family can put food on the table, afford health care, earn a real living wage, and have access to economic opportunity. Let's welcome her.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are we doing tonight? It's an absolute pleasure to spend this evening with you all. Thank you so much for being here in the really chilly weather. As it was mentioned, my name is Annabelle Mendoza. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan raised in a working class Latino and immigrant family. I'm a proud Southwest Sider. I grew up in West Lawn, a neighborhood near Midway Airport, where families like mine worked incredibly hard and still struggled to get by. As a child, my parents made sure that the memories I had growing up in West Lawn were ones of block parties, riding my bike around Marquette Park, playing in the sprinklers in the heat of Chicago summers. The truth is, though, if I'm being honest with all of you, living in West Lawn were some of the hardest years my parents have ever had to go through. I remember there used to be a small whiteboard that was pinned to the wall in our kitchen, and it kept track of the money that my family had left. $15, $9, $5. They would stretch every single dollar to make ends meet and to feed me and my two older siblings. And it meant that there were nights where my parents did not eat dinner so that they could feed me instead. They'd rather themselves go hungry than to know that their little girl was. There was one time when my mom took me to the store with me and my older brother, and I remember seeing a toy that I really liked. I was about 5 years old. I picked it up. I asked my mom, could I get this toy? My older brother, he yelled at me, and I didn't know what I did to warrant him to yell at me in such a way. But it was because he looked at that whiteboard, and he saw we had $9 left, and that $5 toy was a luxury for my family. When it's between feeding your kids or getting them a toy, every single parent, and I know every single parent in this room, will choose to feed their baby. And I tell all of this to you all because this is what brings me to run for Congress. At a moment when our families are doing everything right and still struggling to get by, stretching every single dollar but facing the crushing cost of rent going up, healthcare going up, tax prices going up, everything is rising, and it's not sustainable. We know better than anyone that it's our taxpayer dollars that are funding genocide, that are going to ICE raids, that are ripping apart instead of building up our communities. This moment demands transformational leadership, and it is what I am bringing to the table in Illinois 7, because I'm fighting for communities like I'd fight for my own family. I'm fighting for them like I'd fight for my parents. And something that you all will soon come to learn about me is that when I feel my community has been wronged, you cannot back me down from a fight. I will win, I will stand up, and that is the kind of leadership we need in Congress at this moment. We need people who are going to fight at the federal level to bring that money back to our community, where it matters the most, and someone who will unite all of us. Thank you.
Human rights, free speech, immigrant rights, and equality for all. Please give him a warm welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and go Bears! I'm very pleased to be with all of you tonight, and thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Joey Rusevich, and I am running for Congress in the 6th District of Illinois. That's right. I'm challenging the incumbent Sean Casten, and I recognize the moment that we are in. We are in a moment where we have all of the money in the world to build a better society, but we waste it every year on war. We have a $1 trillion Pentagon budget, and we do not have enough to feed the poor people in Chicago. We have people starving and freezing to death in this city, while we have money to pay the military contractors who demand more and more and more every year. I'm a software engineer by trade. I did machine learning research for a subcontractor of the Department of Defense before I became a mobile app engineer for a Silicon Valley tech company. I'm very concerned about artificial intelligence and data centers. I would like to ban everybody under the age of 18 from interacting with human imitating machines, because I see no benefit to this. I see a detrimental effect on their humanism, on their ability to interact with humans, on their sociality, on all of us, on their future. And I see on the electricity prices going up and up every year in Illinois because these data centers are taking away from the supply that we have without offering to build more energy infrastructure. Whenever a data center comes to town, they need to build their own energy infrastructure so that the cost is not spread to all of us. And of course, we got to this place because we allowed the consolidation of wealth and power to run out of control, where the very few control and make the decisions for the rest of us. We must break up monopolies across industries to inject competition that will lead to innovation, lower prices, and new ideas. I want to touch on something that was mentioned by the co-founder and president about the ideals that were set forth by our founders, the individuals who had visions. They were visionary leaders. We do not have time for incrementalism anymore. We do not have time to say we need to lower healthcare costs. We need Medicare for all. And the visionary, the vision, the righteous vision that was mentioned about Moses. We will elect leaders. There are many great candidates on this forum today. A lot of us have visions of the future, how we can build America up, how we can restore the American dream for our generation and for the next generation. And with your help, we can do that. Thank you very much.
We're not able to hear you just yet. Give us a moment. Let's see, is there a speaker?
Use the speaker.
Yeah, here it is. Go ahead and try now.
Okay, while we sort through our technical difficulties, next, please welcome Bushra Amiwala, a civic leader and elected official, the youngest Muslim woman elected to public office in the United States. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It is so great to be here this evening sharing the stage with such incredible candidates. I feel like the energy is infectious. My name is Bushra Amiwala. My story is incomplete without sharing my parents' story first. My parents came to the United States from Karachi, Pakistan in the 80s with literally $20 in their pocket and an abundance of dreams. They worked extremely hard to make ends meet and built their life in Illinois 9 brick by brick. My dad is a small business owner, my mom is a teacher, and growing up in Illinois 9, I attended the #1 and #bottom public schools in this district. And that honestly became a guiding principle for me and changed my life. So getting elected to the Board of Education, representing the public schools I attended as a kid, has been an honor and a privilege of a lifetime. Alhamdulillah. And now it's, okay, fine, you can clap. And now it's been 7 years since I've been elected and becoming the first person of my generation to ever hold public office in this country. And it's a covering Muslim woman. Of course, they kind of don't want you to know that. I've had 5 years in tech and a decade in nonprofit, and the 3 sectors have 3 things in common: how to manage budgets, problems, and people. You don't either get the most diverse candidate or the most qualified candidate. You get and always should expect both. And that's why I'm running to represent our community. I had almost 200 conversations with people that live in Illinois 9 saying, who can we be excited about to represent us? And many of those conversations ended with, well, if not you, then who? I'm running on a platform of Medicare for all, because yes, healthcare is a human right, but it's also the economically viable, fiscally responsible, logical mode for our country to adopt to, and there's a reason why 32 out of 33 of the industrialized countries in the world have it, and it's the same reason why ours does not. Because corporate insurance is the second largest lobby group that buys our candidates and elected officials on both sides of the aisle. And I was offered corporate PAC money as a 19-year-old running for the first time. And I've consistently been declining it for 9 years now. I'm running to advocate for immigration with a clear path to citizenship. I'm thinking about the folks that come here on a work visa, on a student visa, and as a daughter of immigrants, we need to reclaim our immigrant narrative and journey. And then finally, I'm ready to increase federal funding for education because right now, the burden is on property taxpayers, renters, and homeowners. And this administration wants to make sure that we have a generation without critical thinking skills, and I'm proud to be sharing the stage with folks that are planning on changing that. Thank you all so much. My name is Bushra.
Let's give it up for, he's a working class leader, small business owner, and community advocate who believes challenging the status quo because he believes government should serve people, not corporate interests. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, folks. My name is Morgan Coghill, and I am the only real Democrat in the race for the Illinois 10th Congressional District. I live about 5 minutes up the road here in Mundelein, so this is actually home turf for me. And I saw something on TikTok. A creator said that this generation of progressives were built different, and we are. No longer are the people running and the people up here, we're not the pick-me corporate Dems. We are the forget you lefties. And we are unapologetically progressive, and we are more aggressive, more younger, and we are going to practice bipartisanship in a different way. No more bipartisanship in the back of Georgetown steakhouses on Raytheon and Palantir's expense accounts, along with our Republican colleagues. No, it's going to be bipartisanship at the tip of the spear, because we understand that we need to fight. Otherwise, we're just going to get rolled. And that's one of the reasons I got into this race, was because after the 2024 election, I was utterly disgusted with the fecklessness and the weakness of the Democratic Party. We allowed Donald Trump to return because we have no vision. You know, the sacred vision that our keynote speaker mentioned, I think about that. I have 2 kids. One's 13 and one is 8. And I imagine what their lives are going to look like in 2045. And thanks to that, I came up with what I call the 21st Century Bill of Rights. First is an economy for the people. That means no stock buybacks. And yeah, that means tax the rich. They've gotten fat and happy off the greatest middle and working class human history has ever seen, that of the American working class. It's time for them to pay their fair share. Second, justice for all. I will never tell my kids that it is okay to jump into a van with an unidentified man who doesn't identify himself or who he's with. Third, peace is patriotic. We will not abide genocide and apartheid with American taxpayer dollars. And last, Medicare for all. In 2045, I want to see my kids not have to worry if they have a medical issue. They need to be taken care of. As Bushra mentioned, 32 out of 33 countries have it. We need it too. My name is Morgan Coghill, and I'm running for Congress in the Illinois 10th.
Let's give it up for Morgan. Energy and has been deeply involved in community advocacy. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you all for letting me come speak tonight, and especially Rami, thank you for those really beautiful words. I couldn't agree more. I think what we need to be building in order to get to this future that we're all trying to build is this multiracial, multi-faith, multi-generational coalition if we're going to actually get to that future, and I thought those were some beautiful words. My name is Dr. Brian Maxwell. I'm an agricultural engineer and environmental researcher at the largest university in the state down in Champaign-Urbana. I'm also a community organizer down there on issues related to housing, alternative approaches to public safety that don't just rely on policing, and anti-war advocacy. I got into this race because I felt like the national leadership of this party was failing us politically and morally. I thought that after this second time to losing to Trump, that the party would have some amount of introspection or reflection in leading us in a new direction, come up with a new path for change. And I didn't see that happening at all. And the clearest example of that not happening right now is the fact that on one of its most immoral positions and one of its most unpopular positions, the establishment is doubling down, and that's U.S. military support for Israel. This is an incredibly unpopular position, an incredibly immoral position, and once I saw the 3 leading candidates in this race, all compromised on this issue, I just couldn't sit on the sidelines. It's my personal belief that this is the moral crisis of our time, and if you're on the wrong side of that issue, I don't think that you're the best person to be leading this state, representing this state, and leading this country in a better direction. My platform is pretty straightforward: anti-war, Medicare for all, tax the rich. First and foremost, anti-war. I think that we should be investing our federal tax dollars in building and healing our communities here at home, not bombing and traumatizing ones overseas. And especially because the same systems of violence and oppression that we finance and tolerate overseas are the same ones we bring back here at home and affect on our communities here. My campaign manager, Jessica Yassine, she's the granddaughter of a refugee from the Iraq War, another one of America's illegal endless wars. Couldn't be here tonight. Her son is also named Musa, so she would have loved to hear some of that. As a climate scientist, this is also a huge issue because an anti-war agenda is a climate agenda. We can't be spending $1 trillion a year on a military budget and expect to be addressing climate change. We keep getting told that this military spending is for national security. I have a different take on national security. I think housing people is national security. I think feeding people is national security. I think making sure we have a livable future is national security. And these are the things that I would like to see brought to the last thing I'll say, I'm one of the only downstate candidates on the ballot, and I think we need to be making sure we're representing those communities. Most of my career has been spent in agriculture, and I would like to be making sure we're leading them on a path towards success as well. So.
Let's give it up for Dr. Maxwell, everybody. Lake County Treasurer with real financial leadership experience, and if elected, she would be the first Asian American elected to a statewide constitutional office in Illinois. And she is running as a candidate who puts everyday families first. Please give her a very warm welcome.
Yo, good evening, Lake County, my home sweet home. Good evening, and thank you so much to the many organizations who are putting this together tonight. So, my name is Holly Kim, and I have the honor of serving the last 2 terms, which is 7 years so far, as your Lake County Treasurer. I'm a wife and a mother to 4 kids, and I'm running for Illinois Controller because Illinois deserves an experienced fiscal watchdog to fight for the working people. So, my background is in the tech sector and the .coms, and my specialty is innovation and software rollouts and reform, which we need in government. My history as county treasurer is the intersection of math and social justice. I was able to invest in such a way that I gave $6.4 million back to Lake County, schools, parks, and libraries. Thank you. And it's really unheard of that government gives money back, but I found a way. All while I invested only in American investments. Billions of dollars come out of my office and all checks with my name on them. That means out of the 5 people running for Illinois Controller, I'm the only one who's already doing the job. Additionally, I've been a fighter for the people. I started 2 rapid response teams to fight ICE and did over 100 financial literacy seminars to empower the community. I also sit on the Controller's Bank on Commission against predatory lending, where we worked with the Black Caucus and legislators to lower the percentage at which payday loans can charge. And I will tell you, every single one of them in Illinois closed and left the state. I have the pleasure of being involved with IFN and the local community for over 10 years. And as chair of the Asian Caucus, one of my goals was to have more Asian Americans elected into office. And I've helped some of you in this room to run, and we won. I've been there with you during difficult times, like when Trump got in and wanted a Muslim ban, and I was with you when you started Nyama PAC. And I've been to your homes for Eid, thank you for feeding me, and to your children's wedding showers, and I'm glad to be in a long-term marriage with the community, and now with UCEF. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to protect your privacy. I'm going to modernize this office with technology and innovation. This is a real money job that needs real money experience. I can fight for our community, and I can manage our finances with real executive experience. The best of both worlds. If I'm blessed to win this election, yes, I will also make history as the first Asian American constitutional officer ever in the state of Illinois. Again, my name is Holly Kim, and I ask for your vote of confidence on March 17th for Illinois State Controller, and I look forward to your questions.
Let's give it up for is a Democratic candidate for the Illinois State Senate, an attorney and community leader dedicated to expanding opportunity for working families. As the son of Sudanese immigrants, he understands the challenges facing Black and immigrant communities and has spent his entire career advocating for those vulnerable communities. Let's give him a very warm welcome.
My name is Ahmed Karrar, and as my bio mentioned, I am the son of Sudanese immigrants and healthcare professionals who inspired me to go into a career in law and community development. I've advocated on behalf of vulnerable families. I've helped large institutions invest millions of dollars in communities of color. So alhamdulillah, I've had a diverse range of experiences, and I'm looking forward to leveraging them in Springfield and doing good work for working people. With respect to the core question on why I've decided to run for office, it really comes down to one reason. I believe that government should work for working people, and for far too long, that just simply hasn't been the case. We live in the richest country in the history of the world, and yet we have too many workers still living paycheck to paycheck. Some of them are working 2 to 3 jobs, still barely able to make ends meet. We have too many seniors still wondering if they're going to be able to retire with dignity, and we have too many children, particularly children in my district, who are not afforded the world-class education that I believe they deserve simply because of their zip code. And to me, I find that morally objectionable. I also find it concerning for two primary reasons. The first reason is more so material, the impacts that it has on our pocketbooks and our health, both from a physical and mental standpoint. But the second reason is more, I would say, veiled. It is the impact that it has on our lack of trust that we're seeing throughout society right now. Lack of trust in leaders, in our institutions, in our government, and by extension, I feel also a lack of trust in each other sometimes. And when you combine that with the affordability crisis that we're seeing right now, I believe that it's a powder keg for things like extremism and division and violence. And it's the type of things that our president right now really feeds off of. And so the question that's before us now is, what are we going to do about it? And in thinking about that question, I came to the conclusion it really comes down to leadership. We are in desperate need of bold, progressive, pro-worker leadership that at the same time, as Ahuna Rami brought up earlier, brings people together. I'm really excited about fighting for investing in smart investments like universal child care so that we can make sure that we can address our affordability crisis while also helping to expand the economy. I'm also going to be advocating for protecting Medicaid to the best of our ability in response to all these heartless cuts from the Trump administration. And I'm also going to be fighting to finally reforming our archaic tax code so we can tax the rich and bring much needed relief to the middle class. So I'm really inspired by all the candidates here, and I genuinely believe that if we continue to fight on, we will collectively win in the end. So thank you so much.
Illinois State Comptroller. She currently serves in the Illinois State Senate and previously served to be in the Illinois House of Representatives. She has been decorated to working on legislation related to education, healthcare access, and consumer protections. Please give her a very warm welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. As you have all heard, my name is Karina Villa, and for those of you who are just meeting me for the first time tonight, it is easy to remember if you just remember Karina Kapoor. My title right now is that of state senator. One day, inshallah, it will be Illinois State Controller. However, my favorite title has been and will always be Miss Villa, because the only people to call me that are my former students, you see. I was a school social worker for 15 years before I ever ran for office, and my North Star, what leads me to this work, is leaving this world a better place for my students, for the children. And when we think about the office of the State of Controller, we need a bold leader who is unapologetic and unafraid, and we have to think about who we are going to trust with our dollars. Who are we going to trust to make the decisions with the dollars of the state of Illinois, which is your tax dollars? Who is going to stand up not just when it's the cool thing to do, to say that we stand with a group, but who has a track record of that? For example, standing up for immigrants. You see, I didn't just run after ICE to tell them to get out of my city because it was something cool to do. It was something that I've been working on and doing my whole life, because my parents are immigrants too, and my father came to this country in the trunk of a car. I didn't just stand up and say, today, I'm gonna wear the keffiyeh. You see, I wore the keffiyeh, I wore this exact one at the DNC. You see, I have stood with the community, not just today, not just right now in Lake County. I have stood with the community on the record. In Springfield, you see, when Mike Frericks came in front of our committee, I was shaking and I was afraid. I didn't even tell my staff what I was about to do because I was afraid that they would tell me not to. I said to him, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Treasurer, you tell me, did you send Illinois dollars to invest in bombing the innocent people of Gaza? I got him on the record saying yes, he did that. So who will you trust to be your next Illinois State Controller? Who has been there with you, not just when it's cool and popular? That is me, Ms. Villa. I will be your ally. Thank you so much.
Fight extreme inequality, protect essential programs like Medicaid, and return real power to the people, because he believes the risk is not in acting, but in doing nothing. Let's give him a very warm welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to all the speakers who have been here. Dr. Nashashibi, that was powerful. Not a lot of people talk about, we hear about the genocide in Gaza. We hear about that, but we don't hear about the genocide that's happening in Sudan. We don't hear about the Congo or the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I appreciate those statements. They mean a lot to me. I'm John Shepard. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'm a union electrician. I want to tax billionaires. But more than that, I'm cadet general of the Black Panther Party, the Revolutionary Black Panther Party of Illinois. And I'm an ally to the people in this room. They tried to pit black at white, at brown, at yellow, at red. They put us all against each other when it's really those at the top hoarding the wealth against us, the working people of this country. We should have universal health care, like my friend Ahmed said. We should have that in the richest country in the history of the world. It would be less expensive to have universal health care than it would to have the system that we have now. We could have a universal basic income that lifts all people out of poverty. That's inexcusable that we have poverty in this country. It is inexcusable. I'm frustrated with the representation we have. Who am I? My grandma has been in Inglewood for the last 50 years. My mother moved me to Broadview, when I was very young. I was raised there. I've been a member of Chicago my entire life. I fight for Chicago and I bleed for Chicago. I went to school in South Carolina State University. I got my degree in physics and my minor in music education. I went to the National Radio Astronomy Observatory where I was an astronomer. I was an educator on my school campus. So I understand how hard it is to be a teacher. I understand what teachers go through. I have an immense respect for teachers. Who am I? What do I want? I want working people to have a voice. I want people in underserved communities to feel represented. We don't have representation. The average age of the Senate is 65 years old. The average net worth is $4.5 million. I don't have a problem with seniors in the U.S. Senate, but we should have some 30s and some 40s as well. We should be represented. Why is there such a wealth disparity in this country? Why is there such a wealth disparity in our Senate? And I'll say this last thing. There are no Muslim senators. Inexcusable. And we've had 14 black U.S. senators in the history of this country. 14. And in the last 10 years, 10 of them in the last 20 years, started with Barack Obama. So I say that to say, we in this room need representation. I love you all. Thank you so much for your time. I'm John Shepard. I'm running for U.S. Senate.
As it was said, I'm Jesse Rojo, the Communications Director for Junaid Ahmed. And he sent me here to share a few things. First, apologies that he could not stay here and shake each and every one of your hands. Second, he wanted me to convey salam to each and every one of you. And then lastly though, he wanted me to share why he is running. Junaid is running for the 8th Congressional District to become the first truly pro-peace representative in that district, fighting to make sure that we do not waste our taxpayer dollars on bombs overseas, destroying communities, but instead build up our communities here in the 8th District. Through bold, progressive policies like universal child care and Medicare for all, we can make sure to reward hard work, invest in our families, and build a fair economy for all. So if you want to learn more about Junaid, please visit junaidforus.com. If you want to join this movement, please come say hello to me. I'd love to meet you. And if you are angry, please take action. If you are sick and tired of being forgotten by your politicians, tired of being robbed by the billionaire class, and tired of witnessing our American dream ripped apart join us in this movement so that together we can win, and together we can rebuild our economy, restore our Constitution, and bring the American dream within the reach of each and every one of us, not just fighting the MAGA agenda, but fighting an entire political system that has failed us. Thank you all so much.
Let's give it up for Jesse. Thanks local services, fiscal responsibility, and ensuring DuPage County works for all residents. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Hello everyone. Thank you for this moment. And letting me tell you about my race in DuPage County. I'm running in DuPage District 4, which is Glen Ellen, Glendale Heights, Wheaton, half of Lombard, half of Carroll Stream, half of Bloomingdale. You know people that live in this area. We can get the word out. It's not going to take a lot, and we'll have a seat in District 4. I was born in Chicago, raised in Indianapolis, went to college in Lake Forest. My MBA is from Lake County. I know this area. This area is home as well as DuPage. My kids grew up here, and the America that they're living, the America of our founding fathers, the America that they are growing up in is not the one that my founding fathers are going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate next year, nor is the one that I grew up in. And that's why I'm running, because we need to go back to decency and humanity and collaboration and remove the gentleman in the seat that's been there since 2003 and is so complacent that his website has been updated since 2018. I thank you for your time, and I'm in the back to talk if you'd like.
Please to challenge corruption, restore accountability, and ensure government works for everyday people, not special interests. Please give him a very, very warm welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. So my name is Kevin Ryan, and I'm running for the United States Senate because I have a sacred vision. All of the things we've talked on this stage and my peers have brought up, universal health care, universal child care, fully funded public education, a government that works for all of us, that cannot happen until we realize that sacred vision where we end the corrupting influence of money in politics. That is the core of my campaign. And so what I've been doing is setting the example, paving a new way to electoral success. I bought an old school bus, turned it into our mobile campaign headquarters, and I'm the only candidate in this race to have traveled to all 102 counties, talking to voters in person where they live and work. Through a radically authentic campaign, we have also reached over 7 million people on social media without spending $1 on advertising. Because when your message works, it sells itself, and you don't need to raise money to advertise. Before this campaign, I brought up the concept of this to members of Congress, to political insiders, and directors of PACs. And they told me, you know what, Kevin? You're an exceptional candidate. You can win. But this idea of yours, that you can win without raising millions of dollars, it cannot be done. That is not the first time I heard those words. A few years ago, I spent Christmas in Afghanistan. I studied Islam and read the Holy Quran to grow closer to my Afghan partners. And on Christmas Day, I shared one of my favorite surahs with my closest interpreter, Obedullah. In the name of God, the most gracious and the most merciful. If God wanted you to be one community, He would have made you so. But He wanted to challenge you. So He made you different. Race to do good. In the end, God will bring you to one and make known your differences. Race to do good. In that moment, Obi and I had this realization that we were brothers. That even in an ideological war in the far-off snow of the Hindu Kush Mountains, a Tajik, Sunni, Afghan, and a Roman Catholic Southsider could see that each was racing to do good. Later on, after I left Afghanistan, Obi and his family were left there. They were trapped after the United States left. I called members of Congress, I called the State Department, I called Marines, I asked them for help. The official response I got from the US government, from our government, was, it cannot be done. I refused to accept that. And so I started sending him money so that he could feed himself and keep his family in safe houses as they bounced from house to house. Weeks became months, months became years. And so finally I took one big risk to try to get them out of the country. We got them into Pakistan. And I'm happy to say, 2 years ago, almost to the day, on December 9th, Obi and his family invited me over to their new home in Maryland, where he gave me this. He carried this with him. He carried this with him through his entire journey from Afghanistan to his new home in the United States. Because we are brothers. He gave this to me as his brother. I wear it for him, and I wear it as a testament to all those who doubt this campaign. Do not tell me it cannot be done.
Let's give a very, very, very big round of applause.
Everyone moving out of the city. But it is an extraordinary honor and privilege to be here before you at such an important moment. I think it's worth starting by acknowledging tonight the horrific shootings in Australia. I'm sure they have already been acknowledged. But our prayers go out to each of the 15 families and to all of those that experience that horrific carnage. May all their memories be a blessing. We should also note that both in the Muslim, Jewish, and other traditions, there is a saying and tradition about the person who takes an innocent life is as if they've taken the lives of all of humanity. And those who have saved an innocent life is as if they have saved all of humanity. So we gather here tonight acknowledging the horrific terrorist attack, as we acknowledge in Australia and Bondi Beach on the eve of the first night of Hanukkah, as we continue to acknowledge the horrific deaths and genocidal violence in Gaza, Sudan, the Congo, all over the globe. And we acknowledge not only their deaths and pray for their families, but we also acknowledge those brave, courageous voices throughout the globe that have tried to intervene to stop that violence. In Australia, it happened to be a man by the name of Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who risked his own life to save the lives of those that were taken, and perhaps without his intervention, the horrific carnage would have been that much worse. So tonight as we gather, we pray for the innocent victims of violent death and terrorism all over the globe, and we pray for the courageous voices, irrespective of what religious tradition, that stand up on behalf of those. Here in the Chicagoland area, as a Palestinian over the last couple of years, I have seen voices from Jewish, Christian, Catholic, all traditions, standing up on behalf of those innocent deaths over the last couple of years in Gaza. And so tonight as we gather, we acknowledge that tradition. And it's important because I think it speaks very much to the types of convening and the message tonight. I am profoundly grateful for the Unified Civic Engagement and your forum that you're having. These type of discussions, even on cold nights, as we think about the political process and we think about those who are going to represent us, and we get a chance to hear from those that are running for office tonight, that we acknowledge in the American Muslim community our appreciation for the type of faith alignment in our communities. Some of you may know that as part of my organizing work over the last 30 years, I've worked in many multi-faith settings. Part of the tradition over the last 4 months, we have been working very intentionally with a table called Faith Over Fear, bringing Christian, Jewish, evangelical, First Nation communities, Catholic communities together, responding to the horrific, fear-inducing violence that has been imposed upon our community by these Gestapo forces unleashed by the federal government to induce fear in the lives and communities. We prayed collectively in front of Broadview, where we did the Jummah prayer, where we walked with faith leaders to demand the release of those detainees. We prayed last Friday, yes. We prayed last Friday in Little Village, again, together, Catholic, Jewish, Christian, evangelical, First Nation communities. We provided a Jummah. It was 5 degrees outside, yet we had, mashallah, an extraordinary force of people that showed up to tell the families in Little Village that when you're under attack, we are all under attack. That is our tradition. Look, I'm a proud Palestinian, born to a mother who was a refugee from May of 1948. She was literally among the first Palestinian families to settle on the south side of Chicago. Born in the Nakba. May 1948. My mother in the state of Israel will always be the same age. Literally, her mother, grandmother, stopped on the side of the road and had my mother before she became a refugee and became among some of the first Palestinian families that settled in neighborhoods like Inglewood and Marquette Park on the south side of Chicago, where I continue to work, live, and organize today. Now, I'll say this. My mother, her father comes from a village called Ein Kada. Some of you may know it's a very sacred village that's part of the Jerusalem area. My father's side, still in Jerusalem, is an 800-year-old family in Jerusalem. We take my roots in that ancient ancestral city very seriously. Ein Kada was the birthplace of John the Baptist. There's a well there that till today is believed that the Mother Mary met Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. So when you talk to a Palestinian that understands our history, it is nothing for us to think about what it means to sit at a table with beautiful sisters and brothers from the Catholic and Jewish tradition. For hundreds of years, we interfaced with families celebrating Purim one night, Easter the next, Eid the next after that. We sat in each other's rituals. We lifted each other up. That type of multi-faith connectivity was part of our history. And it's something I want to invoke tonight. I don't get a chance to watch a lot of television, but I was intrigued by a series that was on Netflix about Moses, Musa. Some of you may have seen it. It was interesting for me because I was just talking to a very, very close Jewish friend and saying, like, look, when the stories of the children of Bani Israel are mentioned, Muslims don't look at that as their stories. Those are our stories. We name our children Moses. And he thought about that. He said, I have friends named Musa. Is that what Moses is? I said, yes. In fact, some of you may know this, the Quranic scholarly nerds in the room. How many times is the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the Quran, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? 5 times. 5 times. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned 5 times. 4 or 5, and there's different references. Okay, scholarly disputes. I'm not gonna argue. 4 or 5, there's different perhaps references, one by name, one by inference, right? Okay, nice out. He's technically calling me out, technical foul. Nice out. Now, how many times, Sheikha, is Musa mentioned in the Quran? All right, see, look, she was very technical just 30 seconds ago. Now I ask her another question a lot of times. 129, I think I read 135 once, but let's say 125 plus. Can we agree? 125 plus. Moses is mentioned in the Quran over 125, 130 times. Meaning those stories matter. They're not their stories. They're not your stories. There are collective spiritual stories about what it means to be a people running from being enslaved, running for liberation, aspiring to be in a sacred land, fighting those internal struggles. Those stories are our stories. In America, if you by now don't connect to the liberation of African American communities as your story, you are part of the problem. If you don't look and understand that the stories of Omar bin Said, the stories of those that were brought here in the transatlantic slave trade, and all of the pain that they endured as human beings on this land are part of your story, then we will never be free as a people. If you don't look at the stories of First Nation communities on this land and the pain that they endured, the land that we stand upon, and see those as your stories, you are part of the problem. Our collective liberation as spiritual people must be connected, must be interwoven. And that, to our former and current politicals and future politicals, is the type of vision we demand from all of you. We should demand that from our politicals, because that's the only way we're going to get free. I wrote an article that was published recently in The Guardian talking about this precise vision of being able to call evil evil and to name it, whether it's genocide in Gaza, whether it's ICE in Little Village, or whether it's a president, leader, quote unquote, of the free world that spews evil from his mouth and disparages a whole group of people as trash. I was just in Minneapolis 2 days ago running an organizing training and saw our beautiful Somali community with their heads up, unbowed by the words of this man. Because they know they're beautiful, and they know they have contributed amazing things to Minneapolis. Minneapolis would not be Minneapolis today without the contributions of that beautiful community. And we must all today say we are part of the Somali community. The more that he spews hatred upon any group of people, whether they are Somali, whether they are Puerto Rican, whether they are Palestinian, our then collective response must say, those people are our people and we are one. Sisters and brothers, this sacred intersection, this is no longer for me about politics. This is much more than politics. This is about our sacred spiritual well-being. What I wrote in The Guardian is, I think now we need what is called a revolutionary repentance. The word Tawbah and Teshuvah, Hebrew and Arabic, have the same roots. To turn back to God, to turn back to the divine, to repent collectively from our personal and collective shortcomings. We need a revolutionary repentance. We all must turn back. This is a time for Tawbah. This is a time for collective teshuvah, for us to turn back from our wicked ways, to turn back from the systems the king called the triple evils over 50, 60 years ago. Rampant militarism, materialism, racism. These were things that he didn't mince words calling out. They were evils, and they were evils that unfortunately we have benefited from. We have silently participated with. And now as a collective people, we must say we call back and go back to something that's more pure, something more righteous, something more transcendent. And we must demand that of our politics. It is possible. I think above and beyond the political program of Mamdani in New York, irrespective of where you stood, he was calling to something that brought all people together and made them feel dignified. Laqad karamna bani Adam. That should be the roots of our politics. God has endowed each child of Bani Adam, each human being with a divine form of dignity. And our political systems must, and our politics must demand that we respect that dignity. I'll say this and I'll end with this because I know you have a beautiful program in front of you. Going back to my roots as a Palestinian, I consider two places, of course, after Mecca and Medina, and I have to say that or else I get in trouble. But I consider other two sacred places for me. One is the South Side of Chicago. I'm very particular about the South Side. I think it was a sacred meeting ground for many people. And I feel committed to the South Side. Because I think if we can get it right in neighborhoods like Inglewood, we have a collective commitment, whether you live in the suburbs or whether you're in the city, to neighborhoods like Inglewood. They must continue to be part of our conversation. And then, as a Jerusalemite, I will always obviously consider that 1 square mile inside the old city as perhaps the most sacred piece of land on the face of the earth. And I want to always, and I will always relate to that land. It's hard unless you've been there. Unless you have walked the Benedevima in the old city of Jerusalem, there's a type of magic and spirituality that is unfelt anywhere else in the world. That's why we long for it, and we love it. Among the things that I love about the secrets of Jerusalem and the old city and everything around that land is there's so many beautiful secrets there that speak to this ancient prophetic tradition. You hear about the pain, the occupation, the bloodshed. Yes, all of that is happening. But there's also beauty there that our people collectively are holding up. And I say collectively, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish people that are still fighting for a vision that is not embedded in imperial colonial logic, that sees all of our people as potentially living with dignity with one another, like we once did, and like we once can again, inshallah. There's a special place in Jerusalem, right outside as you go towards the Dead Sea. They call it Maqam Nabi Musa. Do I have any Palestinians or Jerusalemites that have been here? Raise your hand if you've been to Maqam Nabi Musa. Okay, there we go. A Palestiniya, من وين انت يا اختي؟ من يافا. عايش رحمه الله. أهلا وسهلا. Okay, so you can know you've been to Maqam Nabi Musa. They call that the station of the prophet Moses. Here's a question. I'm going to test my Palestinian brother. انت زرت مقام نبي موسى, right? طبعا. انت من نابلس. Okay, زرت مقام نبي موسى? طبعا. Okay, who's visited Maqam Nabi Musa? Who's visited the place of the station of Musa? Okay, why do you think they call it? Here's the question. Why? What's special about Maqam Nabi Musa? There's a masjid there. The Maqam, the station of Moses. Why did they call it the station of Moses? Anybody know? Well, here's an interesting fact. I once thought, when I heard it, Moses is buried there. And then, when I went there, I realized, no. Moses is not buried there. So maybe I thought Moses visited there. Then you find out, no, in actual history, Musa never even visited it there. And that the place was established during the time of Salah ad-Din Ayyubi. When he came to Jerusalem, he selected that site, and it became a site of reverence. And they call it, till today, Maqam Nabi Musa. And there was big pageantry, especially during the time of Salah ad-Din. It would almost rival some of the big Easter parades outside of Jerusalem. Even early 20th century Palestinian life, the Husseinis and the Nashashibis. By the way, my family was a big Jerusalem-like family. They would lead these big marches from Jerusalem into Maqam Nabi Musa. It'd be celebratory, it'd be drums, it'd be lots of things that they would celebrate there, they would eat there. That would be part of Palestinian culture. But guess why? He wasn't buried there. He never visited there. So what makes Maqam Nabi Musa? And this has everything to do with the politicos who are either running for office. So pay attention. Where are my politicos running for office? Raise your hand. All right, you all paying attention? You paying attention, right? You're like, what is this guy talking about? I'm just trying to get elected. Listen carefully, because it has everything to do with what you're trying to do. Moses wasn't buried there. He never visited there. So what does it have to do with Moses? Anyone want to venture a guess? If he wasn't buried there, never visited there, and they revere this station and they call it in Arabic Maqam Nabi Musa, what did it have to do with Moses?
Was it the quest and the journey?
What's that?
The quest and the journey?
It has something to do with the quest and the journey. Ooh, see? The Sheikhs. Give it up for the Sheikhs. You're close. It wasn't the final answer. I just wanted to give you some love. But you got it. You're in the area. You're in the ballpark. It had something to do with the quest and the journey. Now, if you watch this Netflix series on Moses, they don't explicitly say it. But the belief of where Moses' grave is, and I visited it 2 years ago, was referenced in King's final speech before he was assassinated. Does anyone know the name of that speech? I've been to the mountaintop, right? I have seen what? The promised land. I may not get there, but I promise you, one day, we as a people will get to the promised land. Who's saying that? Raise your hand. The promised land, the mountaintop. Gave that speech the night before he was assassinated. Final words. April 3rd, 1968. Now, what mountaintop was he referencing, sir? No. No. Oh, this brother's like, just get it over with. This isn't a classroom. Right. You know, some of you, I was a teacher once. It's called, he's like, do it fast, man. Get off the stage. Let the politicians talk. Okay. Mount Nebo, which today is right across from the Dead Sea. When you stand on Mount Nebo, they say there's a church there with where Moses is buried. So what does it have to do with Maqam Nabi Musa? When Moses stood on Mount Nebo, because we know in all of our traditions, he never made it to the promised land. But guess how close his eyes got to the promised land? That hill that they now sanctify as Maqam Nabi Musa was the closest that his sacred site got to Jerusalem. What does it have to do with our politics? What did it have to do with the mountaintop speech? That sometimes even having a sacred vision, you may not get there. We may not get there collectively to the place that we are all advocating for, the type of collective liberation. But sometimes you have to have even a sacred vision of what that looks like. Because when you start looking at the world through that lens, you begin to sanctify things. You make them holy. You make them righteous. You open up a space for us to commemorate, even if you never get there. So, as communities, as we come together, and as we applaud those who came here tonight to address our community that are running for office, we ask that you too keep your sacred vision open. That you too never tire of looking at that world through a sacred lens. Because although what you are advocating for may never fully be realized, there is power just in the ability of casting our sacred vision towards something that can be liberatory. And that is what I believe we are all called for, whether we're running for office or whether we're organizers. And tonight it is about hearing from the people that are standing up and running for office, and may they all, inshallah, God willing, whether they win or not, be people that are rooted in sacred vision. And that is our role tonight, to help them make that happen. Let's give it up for the politicals that are here. Give it up for yourselves. Thank you very much.
Sombrero, look at the sombrero. That's sombrero, dude. Ah.